Oh, yeah. We live now. Jesus.
Live.
Yeah, it's funny because actually we're in different years.
Yes.
We are now here in Australia in 2025.
And I'm back in 2024, speaking to you from a year prior to the year
Yeah,
you're on,
it's nuts.
which is
All this,
awesome.
all this time zone crap. I don't think I ever got used to it really.
Yeah.
Over the I moved here like 6 years ago, I think, to Australia, and I have friends in, I guess, all over the world now with different time zones, and sometimes I kind of navigating that. Just I'm gonna chat, I'm gonna chat to the guy from the US. I'm gonna chat to this guy. I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but so many times, I just, especially the beginning, I just call people, and then Vico, it's 2 a.m. here. Oh shit, sorry. And then yeah, it happened to you?
I remember one time I was in Tel Aviv. I got a COVID shot.
Mm,
This was my first COVID shot, and my plan. This was a Friday, so it's going to the Tel Aviv weekend. I don't have any work to do. Um, so I planned it so in a manner that I will go during noon to get the shot. I would have all the effects during the night so I can sleep and recover the next day.
mhm.
So I went in. I went in. I went to sleep. I would say 8 p.m. and I felt horrible. At about 1 p.m., 1 a.m., I got a call from someone from New York. Oh my God, you have to go online now. Everything is crashing, and I'm like, I'm with all this, all the effects of the
Yeah,
COVID
yeah,
shot, and I'm feeling horrible. I went online and I'm starting to debug, and it took me about an hour, and I'm blurry. I feel bad. And after a while, I told him, "Listen, the other guys didn't commit their changes yet. Could we wait for that to happen?" He said, "Oh, okay, okay, okay." So I went back
yeah,
to sleep. And when I came into New York, I told him that story, and he says, "Sometimes I just forget the time zones. I think that everyone is on my time zone. I just call them, and
yeah,
after a while,
yeah. It's a thing. Like it's kind of it's work. It's also can be like family influence. Yeah, I don't, I don't know. Like you feel like you get used to it, but did you get used to it? I don't think I did.
well, I set up um, in multiple places in the house. I set up few clocks
Mm,
um, to indicate that we're in different time zones, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes we call and speak to people um, thinking that they're on our time zone.
I think I can hear myself in the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like headphones?
That's it. I do. I do have a couple of those.
Yeah, that's why I put mine. I think that can help.
Hang on. Let me see.
That's all right.
Here's one. Let's try those.
Such a old techie. Cables?
Let's see.
Where's your, everything needs to be by Bluetooth, so so they can hear us.
Okay. Let's just make sure that it didn't change the microphone. USB consended, headphones built in,
So we can fix it.
webcam. Yeah, it seems like we are. You still can hear me well?
I can hear it also, and I think yeah, now I can hear myself, which is good. I think it was like a feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, mate, time zones like it's family and friends, and again, I have a few friends in US. Uh, yeah, but it's like I have family in Germany. Been living there for years, like probably like more than 20 years now. We speak with them only like on holidays, just kind of yeah. Not because of that. I think they left uh, they left to Germany in like 91, moved to Germany. So yeah, it's so just kind of birthdays and Happy New Year, and that's it. That's the only time we hear from them. But mostly it's still kind of US and Israel. So that's the main time. But yeah, but again, the time difference is so usually what happens is I message people first. Hey, are you free? It's kind of on a chat, and then it's kind of became I have friends that I talk to them only when they drive to work. So it's kind of a thing, So it's especially like in
Yeah.
Tel Aviv. So I kind of like I know. Oh, okay, he's probably like in traffic right now. So he goes from Tel Aviv to Netanya. I know exactly what to call him. And yeah, so it's like you just kind of find for each person, you like have a personalized way when you chat to them.
Yeah. Do you feel that since Australia is so far away from everything else,
Mm-hmm.
you feel it affected relationships, or you with the people you care about, and you can stay in close contact even though there is this a very big distance?
I think because of the internet and everything else, the distance, the physical distance is like on the communication, the impact of that. It's big. Uh, I think the fact that I haven't seen anyone like in person in the last almost 7 years now
Wow.
might have an impact, but it's kind of from really good friends we talk, uh, not as much as the first year. uh, I think some of it also we have kids now here, you're just busy, how it is, just life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we mostly send each other stupid chat on Instagram, and so it's kind of keep in touch, but I think having like deep conversations. Maybe this is the only way. Kind of let's jump on a call and have have a chat. But it's yeah, and pretty much all of my friends from our industry, right?
Mhm.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
It's design. Like I don't know about you, but most of my friends are graphic designers, game designers. Like not actually most of them not engineers. I
Right.
think I think it's you and Idan, like Yoni, like and a guy here on, like it's pretty much the only friends that I have, kind of outside of Australia that engineers. Yeah,
Right.
I don't
You,
know.
you
I have no idea how I got here, to be honest.
well, how did you get to Australia? Why did you pick Australia from all places?
Well, do you remember when Trax was kind of offering us to move to US?
Yes, I do. But
Yeah,
but you considered Australia way before that.
a little bit earlier, Yeah, Trax wasn't the first kind of company that was kind of offered that. Some other places were, it's kind of I worked at, or EV worked at. So there was a conversation, some friends, but in general, like the idea of moving, of immigrating, kind of started a bit before Trax.
Mhm.
Just an idea, Someone
Right.
mentioned and we had a chat, but one of my good friends just said, "Hey, we're probably moving. We think we're moving to Australia." And I was like, "Really? Like, why?" And then when he started kind of answering, it felt very, it's kind of yeah. That's probably would be my reasons too. And then, which we can go into if you want later. But then it's like I didn't know shit about Australia. Nothing. Like the usual stuff what everybody else know. It's kind of snakes and
Big
spiders.
spiders. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. It's kind of the moment you're gonna,
Iguanas and
then
crocodiles
exactly,
at
yeah,
the
you're gonna be
house.
eaten. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't know anything, and and then we just my mate told me, and then I came back home, and Evie and I just told Evie, "Hey, what do you think about Australia?" And she was like, "I don't know, it's got that fucking hole in the sun, like it's kind of, it's too hot, spiders, snakes, all that." And then yeah, sure. So like, let's have a look. And then we checked, and we saw that we're both eligible for permanent residence. And then we just kind of started talking about it more. And then Evie and I were more like action. Let's talk. Yeah, we just quite immediately from the idea it became a spreadsheet and a folder in Google Docs, and we started collecting information. And then trucks came with the idea to move to US, and then we were at the very beginning of the process to Australia, or just understand. We spoke with multiple agents, migration agents, and just try to understand, what are options. Can we actually, like, not everything you read on the internet is true. It's kind of and
You're not gonna meet Crocodile Dundee when you land.
yeah, and also like it's kind of when you go to some like doing like an online survey, it says yes, you can come to Australia, pay here for consultation. So we start just and yeah, so we spoke with a few agents. I started reaching out to people online, just kind of that I read their stories, how they moved to Australia, just reach out. And one guy answered, and we had a call. He just told me about their process. He's also from our industry, from IT, and kind of, again, like, why did you move to Australia? Similar reasons. He actually wanted to move here so he can move to US after. He saw in Australia like a stepping stone. But then after they moved here, they said, I'm not going anywhere. Like they loved it here. So yeah, and then when with trucks, it was kind of we were middle of the process, and then we decided like every step with every step we made progress. It kind of became more real, and we kind of felt it's the right choice for us. And after a little bit more than a year, we got the permanent residence. We got the approval after the whole process, and this is the first time we came to Australia. Just
Wow.
we booked the tickets, we came here, and like the process was, again, we can go into details, but the process was, I don't know about US process, like I never compare like getting like permanent resident process because to US it was like a walking visa, what we were supposed to get. So it's
right.
yeah, so it's a bit different. Yeah, and I think what that process with the company with trucks, what it pushed us to do, it pushed us to get a permanent residence while we were in Israel. Like not going to be sponsored by any company. We just felt like if we can be independent and pay a bit more for it, and it's kind of we should do it this way. And yeah, so we came here, we activated our visa, we've been here for 10 days. It felt like right at home. We went back to Tel Aviv, we sold all our shit in like 2 months, and then we moved here, and
Pretty amazing.
that's it.
So if I understand this correctly, you had a decision to move prior to everything. You had a decision that you want to migrate.
We thought we should explore the opportunity.
Right. Outside Tel Aviv, outside Israel.
Outside of Israel, yeah, we thought we should explore the opportunity. We were just.
Did you have like an options list, or you immediately thought of Australia as the place to like? Did you had anything in Europe?
US was, we were thinking about US for a little bit. It's kind of what we saw. It was like it's all like you need to go and work for an American company first. They can sponsor you, which is not a big deal in Israel. If you remember, like it's a lot of people do that. It's very much possible. Right. Yeah. But people talk, right? It's kind of how many people like you spoke with after you moved, to US? It's kind of we were thinking doing the same. The amount of calls I did with people that want to come here to Australia or just in general to immigrate, and it just stayed on the conversation level, which is okay, which is fine, right? It's kind of that's what you should do. You should explore. It felt for us something with Australia it felt right for us, for Evie and I. Um,
Amazing.
and that's it. So we just did it. Like it was really it's just crazy that it only took us a year. Uh, and and I feel like, uh, thank God, Evie did 6 years in uni, and she had the qualification. Like that's what was easy, so easy for us. Like
Wow.
it's all her, and it's like her master's degree in education and everything. It was amazing. Um, yeah, we could go to me, but in tech, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. So it's just back to that, like jumping back to what we spoke before, like all my mates, like in graphic design and everything, and kind of when I said I don't know how I end up here, it was less about Australia. It more like I have no idea how I end up in engineering. That
Really?
wasn't the plan. Not even for a second. Like it's I don't know. Like it just wasn't. Like I study art in design. Study art in high school,
Mhm.
um, and
So
yeah,
prior to high school, how did you
end
how
up.
did you like
Oh,
how did you
yes,
end up in the
yeah,
art?
yeah. So family, my grandpa, from my mom, my mother's dad, was very artistic. Like always kind of always drawing, and everything he did was beautiful.
Mhm.
His handwriting was, uh, you know, like just it's like a font, right? That you
Right,
pick
right, right, right.
use a font. Like it was perfect. Like a piece of paper, white piece of paper, no lines, no nothing. You were just going by. It's just in Russian, which is good luck. But, yeah. And everything he did, like everything he touched, was. And my mom was similar. My dad was is more like on, everything that you need to, like more like architectural drawing, right? Like anything mechanical, and
Mhm.
it was so beautifully clean. Every little thing it did, like it's the plan. It's gonna draw something on a piece of paper to plan something. Even that was like, perfectly aesthetic.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, just that's kind of, it's like he will, want to I don't know, build some shelves. He's gonna draw them on a piece of paper and make some notes. Even the padding of the notes, from the line was
Everything
accurate
had to be
everywhere.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just like that, you know.
If you look at the drawings, I always, when you look at old drawings like Michelangelo and all these, ancient sketches that these people did, in terms of, mechanics, and I'm not talking about art, just mechanics. They try to
Yeah.
invent like a
Mhm.
flying machine and all these. You look at the drawing, it's very, very like it's art by itself. These
Yeah,
items.
100%. Yeah, which is obviously, we can talk about what's the purpose of art, what's the purpose, like the joy. But it's like it's not about that, right? Just like some people. So that's like my dad and my grandpa and my mom. Like they're all like very very artistic and very in I think it was in everything they did. Like my mom, she's a daycare manager, right? And she's everything she does, right? Kind of activities with kids, like all the paint and color, and she does by herself all the kind of invitations for parents, for everything she does by herself. Like if it's kind of, and sometimes she uses computers, and a lot of the time she won't, because she always kind of does something that you touching it, making it yourself.
Right, right. You feel
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you feel it. It's like it's different. It feels
You
different.
put
It's
you
different.
put your heart and soul into that
and
material.
it's a and it's a one-off, right? Even
Yeah,
if you're gonna make multiple, each of
yeah,
them is still one-off.
yeah.
Um, so I used to, so always, it's kind of that's always around me. But it was like never just about like it's never just oh you know kind of go
Okay,
and do for art. It's more like it was always in the house for both like functional purposes, right? I guess I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So now the question is reversed.
Hmm.
Based on what you told me, seems like a natural flow is into art. What the hell are you doing in engineering?
So yeah, so it's just like I study out, and then kind of finish high school. You do what every guy does, every person does in Israel. After that, I went to join the service after 2 weeks. Finish high school, finish that, and then the plan was go and study graphic design. After that, and I went to try to get accepted to Bezalel and HR and some others. Wasn't successful. And then some of my friends got accepted. My best mate, he got like to a waiting list. So we said, okay, we're just gonna try next the year after. And then eventually they gave him a call and got accepted to Hulon Institute of Design. And we lived together, so we were just roommates, flatmates. And he started his first year. What I did, I said, I'm just going to continue, but I'm going to wait for next year. I'm going to apply. But for now, I'm going to go and start with study like Photoshop and Illustrator, just kind of more practical.
A temporary solution.
Temporary, yeah, I'm just going to start with that. Yeah,
Nothing more permanent than
exactly.
temporary.
Yeah. And I took a course in Illustrator. I remember it was like Illustrator and Photoshop, just practical, right? And I started from that. And then after that, it was awesome. I loved it. It was funny. Like I barely touched computers before that, and I was like 24, 25, I think so, something like that. 24, I think, between 23 and 24. Yeah,
Oh,
and
age.
yeah, and I barely touched computers. Like it's kind of and. So yeah, my kind of one of my first software I actually used was Adobe Illustrator before anything else, but felt natural. Yeah,
Yeah, that's still Photoshop, Illustrator. These are
yeah,
still art tools. Where
just
comes
a tool.
engineering?
Exactly. So forward from that, and then from that I finished that course. I enjoyed that a lot, and then I took a course. Wait for it, of web design, and we had what's that software called? Dreamweaver. Remember that?
Oh my
Okay.
god! Oh my god! That HTML generator,
Yeah. So
it
it's like,
creates HTML website, right? If I recall correctly.
so we've been promised, that you don't need engineers to create websites for the last 20 years now. So that was the
Always the
first
same
one.
story.
Always the
Yeah.
same story. So that was the first one. And again, it felt like, I'm just doing this, it's kind of had no idea it's writing code behind the scenes. It was just funny, right? And then uh, then I got Agran Revach, the guy that owned Great Pumika Design in Israel. Um, he had his own studio, and he felt something about me. I don't know what. He kind of said, "Hey, Viko, how about you build this website for me in Trivial?" Like, sure. And then I did. It was fucking horrible. It's ridiculous. And it was Internet Explorer 6 and Firefox. Anyway, so I started doing that, and then he worked with an engineer together. Forgot his guy name, and he told me, like, I sent him what I did, and he told me, "Did you write this code?" What do you mean? No, I just used Laravel. Like, no, 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 no. That's not how we do this. Just if you look behind the scenes, actually writing code, right? Tables and everything. So he just showed me. So I went to his house, and for a few hours, and he showed me. That's how you start HTML page. That's table.
Wow. Wow.
And I came back home, and I didn't stop since then.
Wow.
That's it. That I was just, for me, was just, and just creating, right? Like to it,
Right, right,
just
right,
a tool. Yeah, you
right.
just create. That's like another way to create something. Yeah. So, and
I mean,
that was starting point. Yeah.
when we say create, I honestly,
Hmm.
for me, engineering, and I said that many times. Whether you're writing code, whether you're architecting a system, like a distributed system, whatever you do, it can be art, right? Your code. There's many
Hmm.
times that I wrote code that I go back and I just enjoy reading that code. If I structured that code, that it makes perfect sense and it's a pretty code.
Hmm.
It's readable code. It was well structured. It's very readable. I enjoy reading that code. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes I go back and I take pride of that work because it's a
Hmm.
form of art. Yeah, and planning a distributed system, it's also a form of art. And putting down UML and all of these. You may think, okay, it's a part of engineering. I always look at it as a form of art because of maybe the background in art.
Hmm.
There is a saying which I really 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 like in English, which says, "Earth without art is eh." So if you take the word Earth and you extract the ART,
Hmm.
and you would be left with eh. Which is essentially how I perceive art and aesthetics. Um, if you live your life without art, without aesthetics, it takes away part of your soul. Like I can explain it. If you live in a place where, and I think it was proven in research, right? I heard it multiple times that research has proven that if you go into big places, big churches, with the high ceiling and the big, you know big rooms, it affects your soul. So there is a reason why they build it like this. um and it's so important, like the difference between cramping into a small room versus getting into a big hall with high ceiling and those amazing chandeliers and statues and Greek art.
Hmm.
It has effect on your mind, it has effect on your soul, and because of that, I think it also has effect on your physical health, because everything is connected, everything is intertwined. um
Yeah.
i I really love it. There was a software from Microsoft at the time, which was parallel to Dreamweaver. I can't recall the name of that software.
Really? Was it?
Yeah, they had a software parallel to Dreamweaver that you can also use a graphic user interface to create websites. It was horrible. The end result was horrible, and of course it was
Yeah.
only working on IE5.
Of
You
course.
remember you remember
Ah,
those days. People today don't understand what it's like to develop to about 3 different browsers. Oh, it needs to work on Firefox. We also support IE5. We also support
it's
Netflix
six.
and
Yeah.
Netscape. Yeah, and you need to support all of those main browsers. Oh, and Safari, of course. And there
Yeah.
isn't a web standard. And until jQuery came in and at least partially saved
Wow.
us on the JavaScript side.
Yeah. 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 Like it's kind of even that time. Like I feel it's with all the pain. I feel it was kind of lucky that when we started, you had to do everything from scratch, right?
Right, right,
Like it's kind of when I say from scratch, right? It's kind of like we wrote the website, like we wrote everything in C. But
right.
it's I actually think it's great that we had to write JavaScript with no frameworks. right?
Right.
It's kind of have to do everything not natively because, and it felt like almost something tangible, right?
Right.
It's like something that when you build something, right, like in real life outside of, um, and also like what we build for web for software. Who says it's not real? Just lives in a different space, but it's. I feel like the closer you can get to the source, the better connection
Right.
you can have. Right? Like there are no layers, right? It's kind of between what you want to create and the actual material, right? The core, like it's kind of it's like today you want to build something from timber, from whatever it is. Like it's kind of, you can go to the store, right? You can just the Bunnings here in Australia. I'm sure you guys have something else in US, right? And you can get engineered wood or something, and you can take that, or you can go and find a piece of timber, even if it's like outside. It's moisture. You need to dry it or wait for it to dry, or you want to do something green wood. So it feels different, right? And with all the problems, right? Kind of you buy something from a piece of timber from the store, it's gonna be, well, maybe not from Bunnings, but most of it it can be relatively flat, right? It's gonna be ready to use. When you're taking a rough piece of timber, you need to make it straight, right? You need
Right.
to get like before you actually can make something from it, right?
Right.
You need to do some work on it,
Right.
and it feels like to me that when we started like in that core JavaScript, right? No libraries, no nothing. You had to do everything yourself. Obviously, it's not time efficient, right? Like it's no point to you kind of repeat. You can repeat all that every project,
Well,
but
well,
there's something to it.
well. It wasn't only not
Mhm.
not only the time constraint, because there wasn't any standard. I
True.
remember I developed, and there was such a big. So, for example, I remember one use case. I remember I developed, and I traverse the DOM tree, and there wasn't jQuery at the time. That was pre-jQuery, and I traversed the DOM tree, and everything worked except Internet Explorer, and the debugging at the time was horrible. There weren't any efficient tools like we had today, so
Mhm.
no proper framework to do that, no standard, and no proper debugging tool. And what I found was that when I'm trying to get the child of that element, Internet Explorer treats, he was the only one at the time, they were the only one at the time that treated the space. So underneath that, instead of getting the text,
Mhm.
it treated the space as the next text element. So if someone
Yeah.
added space, they would serve that. All the other browsers served the text, and I would get from Internet Explorer, I would get a space. I would get no results, and I couldn't figure out why. And handling, like, if you would build the code at that time,
Mhm.
which what jQuery did, it was like, if Internet Explorer, then
Yeah. Yeah.
if this, then if this, then. What jQuery did is essentially took all that if else, put
Mhm.
it in a library, and said, you know what, just use our API, and we'll do the heavy lifting in the
Yeah.
background. And thank God they did that. It saved
Oh
so
man.
much time.
Also for me, right? It was kind of that efficiency, right? For someone like me, when I came into that field with the engineering
Right.
from it's kinda, when I went to study graphic design, I finished my first year and in graphic design in HR. And for my last show, like in graphic design, like you have like you put your stuff on the wall, get critiques and everything. And it was my last presentation. I think it was typography. Uh, So it was the last one. I put everything in the, huge kind of suitcase, like specifically for that. And I signed up for like a web and SaaS. It was like kind of interesting course, web and SaaS course. It was like 9 months, a few times a week. It was JavaScript, PHP, and the whole idea was, it's kind of, you just learn by building projects. And people came in from all over, and they had a discount if you come in from a design. It was something at that time where, if you remember that, when everyone was just, oh, you need to choose, you either do backend or you do frontend. You cannot do both.
Right.
You cannot be a designer and be a coder. Like, that's a different. What do you mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
they just
it's not kosher. Like, it's like
totally
it's
different
like,
mindset.
yeah, it's almost like you're fucking breaking some, so like some law here. Like, it's not natural. Like, it's just, now it sounds ridiculous, right? But then, like, it's kind of, but then why you have Juniper tool, right? Like, you try to give designers tools, right, so they can create their own website.
Right.
So you can design something and you can publish it, right? And let's, you could do that. The website I built, right, and that first website I built with Dreamweaver, it looked fine. You can publish it. The code behind the scenes probably was horrible, right?
Right.
It's kind of, which, let's be honest, even today, from all those drag and drop tools, the code behind the scenes is still not the best. Yeah, sorry, all the no code tools there. I'm sure it's getting better, but it's it's still but over there, like, it's kind of, if you, I think you know what, I will find it. I think I still have this. I saved every project I ever did. I think I still have it somewhere. And it was kind of, you can create a click functionality, right, to do. So it will just write JavaScript for you.
Right.
And it's horrible.
It had kind of a sidebar where you choose the event.
Yeah, you can choose the element when you choose an event.
I remember.
Very similar to what you have today, right? It's kind of like in tools. And what will happen after that, trigger? It's going to be link, and I think I spent like, I
not a lot has changed since then from that.
From that specific, right? And I think I spent like 3 days, to try to create a mouse over effect with multiple images, not just kind of, so you can still use that. Like, it was usable. So to me, like, it's kind of why all this exists, right? It's kind of why do you mean I cannot do the design and I cannot code? So I went to that course and I don't know, I again, it kind of felt right. Felt I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The teacher, Alona Gal, it's amazing. We're still friends today. And and start coding. And it was like, it felt to me very natural progress, right? I'm going to design something, right?
And then I'm going to code it.
And then I'm going to code it. Because to me, it kind of felt, eventually the goal is to build this website, right? Or whatever that was. So this is a tool for this part of the process, right? And this is a tool for this part of the process.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Sometimes you're going to have multiple people in that process. Sometimes you're going to have one person in that process. What's the problem?
So
yeah,
you were a CTO, right? You were head of engineering.
Mm-hmm.
If I would today tell you, let's hire someone to do design, someone to do front end, someone to do back end, someone to do architecture, versus, let me provide you someone who can do, a mixture of all.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the pros and cons, like as someone who's now head of engineering? Because I know from a fact that a lot of senior leaders, they don't like, they, because it's, first of all, it's very rare to find someone who can do everything at a
Hmm.
at a level that is acceptable. Most people either do a little bit design, but it's horrible, and then they do very good front end, or they can do very good back end, and the front end looks horrible. It's very rare to find someone that across the board can deliver something end to end, which
Yeah,
is in acceptable quality. So how would you approach that?
I think it depends on the stage of the company. And if it's my company,
Right,
it's like that actually doesn't matter if it's my company or not. It really depends on the stage of the company. If I'm a startup in the early days, the more we can do, one person, the better,
right.
right?
But let's say you're now a
Hmm.
big tech, right? You are
Hmm.
now in charge of a big tech firm, right? Not a big tech firm. Let's say something mid, like 500,000 people, employee, a startup which has grown, and it's very stable now. You have
Hmm.
about 1,000 developers. You're head of
Yeah.
engineering. How would you approach someone who's coming to you and says, you know what, I can do end to end,
Hmm.
and I like it. I
Yeah.
love doing end to end. I love doing back end. I love coding real time. I
Hmm.
can do embedded. I can do front end. I can do whatever you tell me to do. I love everything, and I like the challenge.
I think if I am responsible for you know responsible for 1,000 people, right, uh, or even for 100 people,
Right,
department organization, um, it's less about what that individual person can do specifically to me, right?
right,
To me, like it's then you can look what this whole department can achieve,
right,
right?
right, right,
I think if someone comes to me, hey, I can do everything, I think is great. But then we should try and figure out and focus to align what they want to do and find the place for that person in an organization. Um, that, by the way, can be also, maybe that person has actually the best thing you can do. You can put him in between teams, right? It's kind of someone that
right,
kind of coaches everyone, works with everyone, more like, if it's social architect or a coach, or get the best out of people.
right,
Especially if it, as you say, like it's usually very rare to find someone that you enjoy the whole process. Usually, I found from my experience, usually those people end up in some kind of a leadership position. If it's either people leadership or just technical leadership, like solution architects or whatnot, so they can be in between, right?
right.
So
They
yeah, so
they
they can,
have they have a bird's eye
yeah,
view of all the process end to end, and they
exactly,
can.
exactly. So they can touch multiple areas, at the same time, or as part of the research. Um, Yeah, what I found, I don't know about you, I'm keen to hear from you as well, like, how you would answer that question, I guess, and what's your view on it. But I found most people like to choose, or sometimes it was chosen for them, similar it was for me.
Right,
Oh, Viko, you need to choose back or front end.
right,
Just usually when someone tells me you have to, my usual answer is fuck off. Pretty much everything in life, for good and bad. Yeah. So like a motivation. It's um, so what I usually found people, I like to do this, I like to do this, and in most companies, when I was responsible, for the culture or kind of start, you know, how I build that team or teams, was everyone to everything. Like it's not about the tool, it's not about the area, back and front end.
right,
You engineer, you're solving a problem, right? Um, it doesn't matter if that problem right now is on back end or front end, you know, like this changes all the time, right?
right,
It's
right, right, right,
we have today back and front end, maybe in a few years we don't have that.
right.
Uh, it's kind of, I don't know. It's
But the basic structure is always there, even if the envelope changes, the
yeah,
basis.
exactly. Yeah. So yes, more people enjoy the more front end work, more people enjoy more back end work, right? And I think yes, choose what you're good at and go and be even better at that. But still, I think it's we all should try to solve the problem from A to B, and
Right.
the scope of that problem can be, can change. So if I'm head of engineering, my problems are very different, from a single
Scalability.
contributor. Yeah, exactly. For opposite single contributor, right? It's kind of he's right now. He's focused on, don't want to say ticket, but he's focused on solving specific problem and can do
Right.
it by himself, can do it with a team. Um, so and you need to go and use whatever tools are available to him and touch every area of the system that you need to fix that, fix the issue or solve the problem. And again, different companies, it's kind of different problems, different size, different scale. Sometimes people complain how Amazon, do things. Well, they have like what, 50,000 engineers?
Right.
Show me how you
Exactly.
go and
Yeah.
tell me how would you manage, 50,000 engineers?
Exactly.
Like it's very
Exactly.
easy to go and complain, right?
Right.
Kind of.
Or say you would do better, but actually when you would confront the same problems, there's like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
way tougher and this is way harder than I ever imagined. And actually the solutions that they brought in are trade-offs. And I always focused on the the negative side of the trade-offs, but they were aware of the negative side of the trade-offs, but they did weigh
Yeah.
the trade-offs, and they decide, okay, this is the best solution for us at the specific
Yeah.
time.
So to answer your original question is, I think having someone that enjoys the whole process is that person is definitely a keeper. Let's start
Mhm.
from there.
I'm,
Right?
I'm not sure though,
Yeah.
and I'll
Okay.
explain. I'll
No, yeah,
explain in a
yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm keen to hear your opinion. So yeah, I think that person is a keeper. I think the biggest challenge will be um, for you to keep them not in
Yeah.
scope, not to limit them, but the biggest challenge will be, especially the larger the organization is,
Right.
right, is to take that energy, right, and allocate to the right place. So
Right.
again,
Right.
as I
Right.
said, depends on the company stage. The larger the company is, the more challenging it is to find alignment for those people in the organization.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think they are still keeper because I think it's a different perspective. You need to people that usually those people think outside of the box because there is no box for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's again, there are different challenges, trade-offs always.
Right. Right. Right.
So well, yeah,
Um,
what's your view on that?
so there was many times I've saw this question comes up when people say, I have two offers. I have an offer from a big firm, big tech,
Mhm.
whatever, and I have an offer from a startup. Where should I go? Or someone comes in and say, I'm looking for a new opportunity. Should I go to big tech? Should I go to a startup? And I see that question and over the years. And people, there's a template that people answer, and
Mhm.
that template is usually what you said. In a startup, you want to go to a startup if you want to do end to end. If you want to uh, uh, um, push yourself, to learn more, to do hard thing, work all day, achieve a lot, have that end to end achievement. That where you would shine in a startup. If you want to be in that box, you would go to the big firms.
Mhm.
The problem I have is, and this is goes back to what you said before regarding that you feel sorry for a lot of developers that they don't have that access to the bare metal, right?
Mhm.
They live in such a high abstraction level. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of front end developers that you talk to today. For example, where I work, it's Angular. It's either Angular or
Mhm.
React.
Mhm.
This is what they know. They
Yeah.
know Angular, they know React, they know Vue, and they they don't know what's JavaScript. They like it's sometimes you look at someone who has been a developer at something like Angular for 10 years, and you need to explain, you have a conversation, and suddenly you understand that you need to explain to them what is asynchronous development, what is the event loop. You need to explain all kind of things that back in the day you couldn't do anything if you didn't understand that, right? You wouldn't understand JavaScript if you don't understand the event loop, the fact that it's asynchronous, the frustration that comes from the fact that you just came from, I don't know, C++, and now you're suddenly at the language which is asynchronous. What do you mean? So they miss that, right? They come in as an Angular developer, and they develop Angular. So it's basically like Angular brought the Java developers into the front end. That's what it is. The people who know how to do Angular, dependency injection, writing interfaces in TypeScript, whatever. But they don't really understand. They don't really understand the browser, the soul of the browser, the soul of front end. I know when I interview front end developers, one of the main questions I ask, if it's a front end developer, do you love CSS? Do you like CSS? If that candidate say, "Oh, I hate CSS," it's not black or white, but it, from total point system that I, at the end of the day, give to that developer, to that candidate, he lost a couple of major points, because as a front-end developer, you have to love CSS. You have to be in touch with the art, because front-end developer is not, it's not like a backend developer. When you go into Angular, you might feel, okay, this is Java. I'm a Java developer here in the browser, but it's not really. You have to know the CSS. You have to know the box model. You have to be in touch with whatever you do as a front-end developer, because front-end developer is, even though backend is an art and architecture is an art, front-end development is like 10, it's even more art than anything else. Because at the front end, if you missed, like if your application is slow, not responsive, sluggish in any manner, or the UX or something you missed, you broke the entire app. Doesn't matter how many distributed system you have in the background, how many databases you set up, how many things you did. If your application is sluggish at the front end, you lost your client. You lost them. And you can compensate with just a message. You can compensate on a slow database, saying, okay, we're querying this, please wait, give me a couple of seconds, do a timer or a proper loader. You can communicate the fact that they need to wait, but you cannot compensate a broken front end. That's something that will never work.
I think that usually the only feedback you get from a customer, if the backend is not working, it doesn't work. Something
exactly.
That's it, right? It's kind of, and that can be the beginning of the flow, at the end. It depends on the system, obviously. With the front end, there's so many things that can go wrong, and and it's kind of, and it always takes me back to that book, Don't Let Me Think, which I pretty much recommend every person I meet to read that. It's old one.
Who wrote it?
Don't Let Me Think. I forgot the author name. I'll find it. I can find it. We can put it in the description later. It's
TLDR.
It's pretty much like there's like the idea that so it's like whatever you're building, whatever you're developing, right? It's whatever you put in customers' hands, and that's what they see, right? The front end work, the visual, and the interaction. It's like everyone, people with their hand on their mouse, looking for any reason to continue something else. to go
Right.
away from the website. Now it's with
Right.
a touch on the that book was before the mobile, and then they had like multiple editions with the mobile, but it's the same idea. Um, it's it's like the customer is looking for any reason to move to something else. Right? Like it's kind of just click on that X, and so don't give him a reason. So it's don't let me think. It's just you need to build in a way that the customer goes where you tell him to go, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Like
Right.
with that direction, and everything needs to work there almost perfectly to me, right? And so when I started in kind of engineering coding, to me that connection, right? The amount of hours I put at everything needs to be perfect on the
Right.
UI.
Right. 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 This
Felt
is
felt so right, so connected to me. Like it's kind of, what do you mean? Like it's okay that the padding here, like no, like I studied typography.
this
If
is
if the hierarchy is not correct, it's
right.
going to confuse the shit out of the customer, the consumer, and they won't be able to tell you why it's wrong, right? They will just click on the fucking wrong place. They're not going to do what you need them to do. You know, it's kind of like we never get the customer to do for the first iteration what we want them to do anyway.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of, yeah.
Let me ask you this,
Hmm.
and this relates to what you just said. Do you find that people who comes from art
Hmm.
into software,
Yeah.
they have a more a, stronger tendency for perfection than someone who's
Hmm.
came from, I don't know, from math or whatever other subject, which they would develop, I don't know, Python. Let's say a data analyst, they
Yeah.
would develop a Python or whatever, and they wouldn't, based on the people you meet, you've
Hmm.
met, you had a
Yeah.
long career in tech, they're less prone for that perfection that you need in art. In art, you cannot, there's no way to achieve anything without perfecting, right? And typography, if you create a font, if you create a painting, if you create anything in art, it has to be perfect. You have to do things. If you don't do it, it's very obvious, and you don't get paid, right? You don't get paid as an artist if you don't do things correctly and as they should. And
Hmm.
maybe it's just me. I noticed that people who come from to tech and they have a background in some kind of art, even music, right, which is
Yeah.
which is one of the biggest form of art,
Hmm.
they have a tendency for that perfection, um which is missing from other, maybe just me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think also like sometimes when I hear art, it's kind of, and like to me, like all the time when I hear art, it's like expression of the artist, right? It's like more like modern art, right? So it's like that's how in my head it's always got stuck,
Right.
and everything else, would have like functions like design, because there's like different purpose to it. Um, so I will answer your question with this mindset. If that's okay.
No, so
I
so
think,
so
yeah.
maybe
Mhm.
later elaborate a little bit on
Yeah.
that
Okay.
point. I
Sure.
would love to
Yeah.
hear it.
So to me, like it's kind of, you mentioned something. Everything needs to be perfect. I not necessarily agree with that. Like it's kind of perfect to who? If the artist is gonna go and painting, right? It's very abstract painting,
Right.
and for us, we can look at this, in a show, gallery, or whatever, and it will feel unfinished, right? For him, it's perfect,
Right.
exactly as
Right.
it is.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so then it's kind of, are we talking about, then there's a bit of a different conversation. Um, I think I'm more connected to what you say. Like it's kind of when it's not only about the artist, about his expression, right? It's kind of in music, I guess, right? I'm not a musician,
Yeah.
um, but it's like you can hear where something is not correct,
Correct.
right? It's kind of, and so it's there's not going to be lots of kind of open to interpretation, right? It's kind
Right.
of without. It's more like it doesn't matter if it's a painting or a sculpture, right? It's whatever the artist trying to tell us, if we understand kind of whatever medium is using. Uh, but in sometimes, like in design, like in graphic design, you will see a poster, right? You will see an ad printed or whatever. It's they try to tell you
Communicate.
something. There's a message, right? They try to
Right.
communicate.
Right. Right.
Now, if we don't understand that, then it didn't work, right? Then that it doesn't matter if it's very pretty, if it's very beautiful, it doesn't, the message not being received.
If you
So
didn't, if you didn't convey the message properly, it didn't work.
exactly right. Yeah. So so that's kind of my way of looking at this. Correct or not, I'm not sure, but that's when I hear art, and that's how I see this. So and if I would take that to engineering, to our industry,
Right. Right.
that's a question. I think you can see that in different ways. Like some people, there will be they will want they will, they will want some areas to be perfect, right? Kind of things that function names, right? Everything like it's kind of the code
Right.
is beautiful, and we have tools for that today, right? But it's kind of, and you see that on code reviews, right? And we see that on
Right.
PRs,
Right.
like
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
kind of
Right.
it's so opinion, right? So you can see people, you will send me a code, review, and I will have a review. It's kind of, and your function names are I understand what you mean, right? Some people, no, 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 I don't accept that. The function name need to follow this, like it needs to be very specific, and there's usually a good point behind it, right? It's kind of that you need to understand what that from the name what that
Right.
means. So people, and so what I saw all the time, people that come in from
Art.
artistic backgrounds, if it's music or whatever, you will see that that is being kind of presented in different ways in our field, right? Some will care about the naming on functions. They cannot see a bad name for variables or functions or whatever. Some will want their code to be beautiful, right? It's kind of for them,
Right.
everything they do needs to be aesthetic and beautiful.
Right.
And that's what they care about. They will care about this more if the code is more, if it's efficient. They don't give a shit.
Right. Right.
It doesn't matter, right? It needs to be beautiful, and that's important for them. It's usually, and you will see that in their life in other
I
things
see.
too.
I
Yeah,
see.
and some people gonna be messy, kind of with their code,
True.
but it works, right?
Works on my machine when
No,
I
it's
try
gonna
to
work on
test
every
it.
machine. It's gonna, and it's like musicians. Like I had when also, all of my friends are designers and such, but I also met quite a few musicians, and some of them were very kind of organized. It's kind of people that think musicians, it's all rock and roll and mess, and some like that, obviously. And I had a flatmate that he was a musician, and mate, his room looked like fucking, mess. His music was beautiful, clean,
I
okay,
see.
like it's kind of that expression, whatever mess they had in their life,
I see
in
what you mean.
everything in their life,
I see what you mean.
was kind of a lot. It's probably like all the cleanliness,
This
everything.
is where all the energy goes into,
Yeah,
and the rest
exactly,
is
exactly.
being
So
left
yeah.
out.
And the question is, right, if they were like very organized in everything else in life, would their music be as good?
I see what you mean.
I don't know to answer that, right? It's
I
kind
I
of no
would I
idea.
would say,
Yeah.
yeah, that yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, definitely. When I think of it, yeah, I definitely think that you're right. At least in the thing that they focus on, they have that attention to details and perfection. At least at the things that they're
Mhm.
where all the energy flows into. I definitely think you're right in that on that point.
I think code reviews is, if I don't take it back to to that world of art, graphic design, when you put things on the wall. But that's how we did a home assignment, right? You get, this is the home assignment. You work on it for a week or two. You put it on the wall, and everyone sit and just go one by one and criticize and give you feedback, right? And lots of tears from people, and and teachers are harsh, and but that's how you learn, right? You learn
Right.
from feedback they give you, and you learn from the feedback they give other people, and you also learn how to swallow it, right? Because you created something, right? You
Right.
fucking work on it for a week, right? And
Right.
the
Right.
closest to that I can see in our industry is code reviews, right?
Code reviews.
You're pushing something out there, and it's kind of, and then like it's not at that stage, right? It's not that out, right? It's not, oh, I think, at this painting, it's my house. That's what I see. I don't give a
Right.
shit what you see, right? But that's
Right.
what it means for me.
Right.
Well, in code review, fuck you, right? It's not going to work. If you're going to deploy that to production, it's going to break the system. So you need to fix it, all right?
So maybe let me ask you this:
Yeah.
a new developer comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
They let's say they've been working at the with the team for about a month. They pushed a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
You come in, they invite you to a code review. You come in, you do a code review. So now you have a balance. You look at the code; it's not perfect. It will work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the one hand, you don't want to, you already added a couple of comments and they went ahead and they fixed it. You have two options now.
Mm-hmm.
Either say, listen, this is not perfect. You missed attention to details. Um, it may work, but this is not how you do stuff. If you want to do it as it should, if you want it to be perfect, you have to put in the extra hours, to put in the extra work, put in the hard time to provide a very, very good uh, working code, or cut them some slack. This code will work. It's not going to be perfect. It has its downsides, but you would let them grow with that experience, right? When something will break, they will come back and they will have to acknowledge that it didn't work and they will have to fix it. This is their way of their process of growing, instead of someone you know coming with a baseball bat on their head,
Yeah.
saying, you didn't do this
Mm-hmm.
correctly. And I'm sometime having a hard time deciding what is the right approach. Should I be more nagging and pushing, adding
Yeah.
more comments, fix this, no, you didn't do it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
take it again, until they will deliver something that would satisfy me, which is very hard, because sometimes I have this anal attention to details. um or just let them go, let them be. These are young people. you know let them
Yeah.
experience and grow from that.
Oh,
Once it comes
yeah.
back, then I go into the code with them and I explain to them, okay, this happened because of this is the flow,
Mhm.
this is what happens. Which is what I'm doing today. But I'm not sure this is the right
Yeah.
approach.
You know what I love about the industry is that I can answer you this question, with another annoying question. It's kind of, uh, it's like, paint me the room. Like, again, what stage are we at? It's kind of, what are you trying to achieve from that person? It's like, and it took me a while to understand that. Like, it's like I was, still am, I guess, but especially at the beginning, I love doing that pixel perfect work.
Mm.
I could sit for 12, 14 hours. I didn't feel I'm working.
I love pixel perfect.
I just, I did it, and I used to get projects on fixing other, people work, like to make, like, take something Internet Explorer 6 and, and make it working on Firefox, which was pretty much rebuilt from scratch.
Right.
And funny enough, I made good money out of this because
Yes.
most people didn't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly the
so
point.
so that was my standard, right? Like everything that goes out there is pixel perfect,
Pixel
or
perfect.
pixel perfect to the to the design I got. So
Right.
the designer is happy because I trusted that if the designer is happy, the customer will be happy, which always not necessarily is true. But yeah, and again, you learn that with time, right? The customer is happy when he puts his credit card, but it's best test for your product. But eventually, it's what you're trying to achieve, right? It's kind of, you said, "Oh, I need to be happy." Do you need to be happy from the code review, or the standard you set needs to be met? Right? You can change the standard, and then they need to meet different standards. So what I learned with time with code reviews, and because code review, like, it's a gateway, right?
Mhm.
Also, it's like, it's not just, well, you can do it for ticking the box, but like, highly recommend not to. Eventually, like, it's kind of, you allow that piece of work going to live with the rest of the piece of work, and that's how we create beautiful technical debt.
Right.
So it's, I think, at the beginning, if you're in a startup, early stages, you should accept that most of that code will be thrown away. It probably
Right.
should. You need to move very quickly. You need to cut corners slowly, because what's the most important thing is put it in customer hands. Everything else,
Move fast and break things.
who gives a shit, right? It doesn't
Right.
matter, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Unless it depends on the product, right? Unless like, if we're gonna, now you and I need to develop something, piece of software that's gonna sit on on a piece of hardware, that the only way to release a new version is for the customer to come in and upgrade, we're going to have a very different conversation. But
Right.
For most of the things we do, that you can just go and change it again and again and again without customer need to do anything. So at that stage, it's whatever you're comfortable with, right? It's whatever, yeah. So I think the standard need to align for the business stage at. That's my opinion, personally. And that also, might change in the future. But from my learning so far, kind of being part of early stage startup,
Mhm.
kind of see them grow from 1 engineer to 12 to 13, and more, and you can see the result, right? If you have a code that goes, that you kind of say, fuck it, it works. Let's continue, right?
Right. Right.
And if you one or two, three people, it's probably okay. It's kind of, and again, you're going to rewrite that. If you do that when you have 10 engineers,
Then it's a problem.
and even 10 is nothing. Come on,
Right.
it's kind of, and yeah, it's going to be a problem. So yeah, so I think this is like where it needs to be, the standard needs to be agreed. What's the minimum that, I don't even think if it's we should talk about minimum or maximum, right? Everyone needs to try their best, right? And then you have your people, your peers, right, to feel, yes, it's great, right? And then the conversation, does it needs to be great, right? It needs to be amazing. Does every time it needs to be, or it needs to meet, it at least needs to meet the standard, right? Not everything needs to be, not every piece of code is revolutionary. Sometimes you just want to move the fucking button, 50 pixels, stop,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
A/B testing said that's the best approach, right?
Right.
So just move it and move on. But yeah, I think from larger pieces. So it's again, it depends on the state of the company. It depends how many people are gonna look at this code in the future, how it's gonna connect to other pieces. But yeah, from my experience, the moment you decide that code is gonna stay there,
Mhm.
you should guard it. You should whatever makes you comfortable and whatever kind of align that to the standard, and you're very comfortable with that standard, and then
Mhm.
change the standard. And it's also going to help because you said new engineer. How about the other engineers, right? That new engineer not going to stay new, hopefully, very long, right? They're gonna move up, and eventually you as a leader, right? You want them to keep the standard. You want them to improve the standard, right? You want them to come and push you. Hey, guy,
Right.
there's better way to do this. And we want that across the whole system. Let's improve the standard. So, in short, like I would say, try to remove the artist from that process, the creator, right? And just look at the kind of creation itself, and then does it really matter who wrote the code, right? Like
Well,
it's
um,
that's
maybe
the question sometimes. It's gonna
maybe that's a problem with me sometimes, because sometimes when I work with young developers, I wear that hat of a mentor.
yeah. You should
Um,
as a leader. Yeah.
and I say, okay, even if I try to find that balance between pushing too hard and breaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like education of your kids, right? If you push too hard, you might break them. If you don't push at all, it's not very useful. So I try to find that balance, that they will be incentivized to be happy where they work,
Yeah.
and strive to contribute, because they like it. Um, and like you said, the end product needs that result. And I always say, okay, worst case scenario, when when there's going to be a time when I need to dive in, spend a weekend or two, to refactor that code, I'll just dive in and fix it
Mhm.
myself. This was always my solution, and it's a horrible solution.
I will have to agree with you that it is. Yeah. It's like the problem is that it's and that's like us, right? It's like what you said, like it's kind of that's probably how eventually that's how you see kind of I'm responsible for this scope, for this piece of software. And yes, other people work on it, but eventually it's on me.
Right.
And what's important to me, right? If that engineer, like that musician that codes now, and for him the most important thing, right, is kind of is how the code looks like, right? Because for him, he sees notes, I guess, that needs to be all beautiful and
Yeah.
yeah. And so for you, it's probably however you want the code to look like, right? Eventually, um, you don't want to accept anything less,
Right.
and if it's coming from you or from others, it doesn't really matter. Which I feel like it matters. It's if you will do it, in my opinion, it's eventually
It's
right.
not scalable.
It's not scalable, right? And also, if you focus on if you will be able to convey that message that what your standard, right,
Mhm.
is is the right way to go, and you will kind of convince them to believe in that, that's scalable, right? And it also will kind of prove that your standard is like it's like you'll now know that it's a good proof, right? Other people believe that your way of doing things is the right way, not just because you tell them.
Right.
So, and also you need to spend your weekends on other shit. Uh, uh,
Agree.
yeah. So it's kind of, and listen, for me, like it took me time to get to this, right? It's go and I'll just fix it myself. I just fix it myself, and then very quickly I just understood, no way. Like I'm just always gonna do that. They're never gonna learn, and then I felt like I have to convince them why I think my way is the right way.
Mhm.
But then when you have a conversation, and when you open up the conversation, people will kind of come in. I actually think that this is the best way, and then you ask why, and then they have to kind of explain why they think it's the best way, not just
Right.
so it's a Medium article. Yeah, who gives a shit? Sell to the team why you think it's better, and this way you get a very good result, because if they cannot explain why this way is better, right, they will actually listen to you, right? Or you will find, or someone will bring a very good idea, and then you'll be, holy shit, look at this, it's actually great. Let's put that to the standard, right? And then it's kind of, that standard is a reflection of you and your team. Um, yeah, so I, that's what I'm trying to do. It's kind of I will continue to try in the future. It's also, I feel like with those standards and code reviews, like in pretty much in everything we do, when is more difficult question to answer than what is the standard, right?
Mm.
When do you start? When it makes sense for the business, how do you explain to the business? Hey, we're going to spend now three amount, kind of extra 2 days on the same piece of work than we used to, because we want the
Yeah.
code to be better. Yeah, it's kind of,
Doesn't make yeah.
most people in business,
It doesn't always make an economic sense to,
I don't think it
strive for
ever does to
perfection in a
them.
code.
They don't give
What?
a shit. Yeah, how
Yeah.
many companies, well, some companies we have worked together close now, so maybe we can talk some shit. But it's kind of, we saw a code that was 12-year-old code, right?
Right.
That worked. Try change something.
Right. It
You're gonna
breaks.
pray to all the gods, it's gonna break, because
Right.
and people that wrote that code sit near you, and you're not gonna ask them what that means, because they don't remember, and they don't want you to ask them. So,
As the word saying, it works, don't touch it.
exactly, and it's kind of, so now it's too late, to change it. I don't know. It's probably like a big topic that we should probably talk about. How you actually do it, but it's so. And usually when you say that, people, oh, the sooner you do this, to put the standard on, is the better. Put it from day one. Today, maybe it's possible, right? Because we have great tools to do that. LinkedIn and
Is it
such.
is
But
it is it realistic? Have you ever seen
uh,
something like that? Have you ever seen
I
the
think I saw
optimal
everyone talking
goal
about
ever
it.
been achieved?
No, I
It's
think no. I think a lot of companies that all companies that I saw make money, real money.
right, right.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
not pretend. Yeah, it's the code wasn't representing what the actual company value or outside.
Right,
Like if it's gonna say, oh, this company valuation is $50 million, if you're gonna evaluate it only based on their code, it's gonna be probably cost $5 because
right,
the code
right.
is fucking shit. It's horrible, right? It's like, it's not about the code, it's how much time it takes for
Exactly.
engineers to make changes, right? So
But not only this, because there's always this example that there's plenty of extremely well engineered. There's a graveyard, right,
mhm,
of an extremely well engineered project that no one ever used and no one will ever use. And on the contrary, there is this piece of shit library that someone coded in the weekend, and nobody can maintain it, but it's being used by the entire world. Have you ever seen D3 code? Have you ever dived into some of the D3 code? Like the D3.js is horrible code, unreadable, unmaintainable, except from those who actually maintain it.
Mhm.
And if something doesn't work and you want to debug inside the D3, it's extremely hard.
Mhm.
But everyone is using it because it's an amazing piece of they have an amazing interface and it works. Versus the graveyard of projects who build perfect perfect interfaces, perfect code, perfect, and no one uses it. It's in a graveyard
Well, it's
instead.
because to me, it's unless you sell code, which in 99% of the cases, that's not what you sell, right? We part of that process. We build products, whatever
Right.
kind of whatever you build, like then we sell the service or sell the product. How are you making money? It's eventually like that's what it needs to. That's why I always answered very annoyingly answered a few of your questions like in a way of depends on the company stage, right?
Right.
Because if you're at the beginning and you have 1 year of runway, that's what's important, right? You have
Exactly.
1 year of runway, and you hope that people that are responsible for raising their money the next round, right, know exactly what needs to be achieved before they go and do that,
Right.
and you focus on that. People that kind of, and you go to meetups. Sometimes I don't do much as I maybe should. I don't know, and it's it's like, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this and we're gonna put this system. How many users do you have? Oh, we have 1,000 users a month. Well, who gives a fuck?
Keep it simple, man.
As simple as possible. It's
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like it's most products you go and see they overcomplicate it, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
because a
Over
lot of the
engineered.
time over-engineered, right? And there's a cost to that, right? There's a cost of when they build it because it takes longer, and there's a cost to maintain, and there's a cost to, and they didn't put the product, in the right on the right timing, to the
Right.
right customer's hand, and that as important as 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 good engineering. It kind of needs to work together. Um, I never saw um, beautiful code on product that actually also profitable and makes
Yeah.
millions. I, I didn't, I'm sure someone did. Most of the time, what I saw was something people did at the beginning, and it worked, and they never changed it because it's working. Let's move to the next step. So
Exactly.
that when do we stop? Right? When do we take a step back? When would we make a decision?
Ever.
How we as engineer leaders, right, go and tell the business, okay, we need to rebuild the foundations, right? Because now we build it for products that look like this, or does
Is
it
that
did
smart
what to go and do it?
to do a recoding, refactor, recode, rebuild? Is
Uh,
that a smart process? Is that a smart move?
I think so. Yes, I think so. Yeah, because I think
Depends on the stage, like we always say.
always, but also I also think it's hindsight is very powerful,
Which
right?
means
Which means like it's kind of what it's like, oh, if we knew it's going to be like this, we're going to build it differently. Well, now you know,
yeah.
right?
But I always like
How important that is. It's like one of the companies I work at, what we did, the founders came to me and they said, "Hey, Viko, we want to hire more engineers. Like we need to hire more engineers. We need to move faster." Yeah, they're right. It's kind of we need to push forward. There's like a long list of features we need to build, and we don't have enough engineers. We move our standards up. Things are now takes slow to build, but we had area of the system that we haven't patched enough, and it stuff became buggy. So I said, okay, before we hire more people, we need to we need to rebuild some of it from scratch. We need to go in and have a look at what we know today. When we build this, it was supposed to serve different purpose, and we did, and then we hired, and then when new people joined, it was so much easier to onboard them, right,
Nice.
on the new code.
Of course.
And like the way, I feel like I sold it was, if you're gonna get new engineers, right, it's not necessarily gonna things gonna be faster, right? Because they have
Right.
to, you're gonna
Right.
spend a lot of time to explain that shitty old coder because it's not clear what it's doing. There's not enough unit tests, it's it takes longer. They're not gonna have confidence to write something and deploy it.
Forever
So
technical debt.
yeah, exactly. So you can actually translate that to money quite easily.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
so, and I guess, when, probably that's when, if you can try to be proactive about it. And ask me the same question 10 years ago, I would say, oh, get new people and then do this. And I think the result will be shit, because now you're paying more salaries, right? So you're and then you're still not getting, more output. And then the
Right.
pressure from the business, which is will be, spot on. What the fuck, right?
Right.
We spend a mil, a month on engineering. Now we spend 1.3, and the output is less. And then you're
That's
going to sell a technical debt. I
right.
would say, no, go say, okay, right now we 800, right? We want to, or now we have a mill, we spend on engineering, we're going to spend 1.3, and what we want to achieve from that, right, is X. So in order for us to do that, let's continue in another 2 months with the same spend and focus on this. So yeah, and then it gives you an opportunity for the team, to improve that standard and for everyone to align, bring all the ideas and yeah, I don't know, like it's every so that's why hindsight is important. And like, why not learn from other mistakes, right? Every time, like, it's kind of, you speak with friends, oh, I joined this company and the code is fucking horrible and nobody wants to do anything. You have guys that worked there for 20 years and they sit on that code, they wrote it 20 years ago, they don't want to share anything because it's a
Right.
strategy, right? It's kind
Right.
of
Right.
untouchable.
What's it called? Job security.
Yeah. And it's kind of, and they don't know that eventually some asshole will come in, look at the spreadsheet, like, nope, you out.
Yes.
And then, good luck finding a new place with that approach. But yeah, it's, and you hear them complain, and it's like, well, do something about it. Right? And then if you're a single contributor, realistically, what can you do about it? Have you ever done something about it? Like, it's kind of like in any places that you walked, it's kind of, and we all see that every time you go to existing code. And I'm sure a person that will replace me in my previous, leadership position, he would look at what we did, and the first thing he's supposed to do is says, "What the fuck is this?" All right? This is horrible.
Who
This
the
is,
hell
yeah,
wrote that? Let
exactly.
me do a git blame. Oh, it was me. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of, and oh, that person is not here anymore. I can blame everything on that person. Fucking A, it's awesome. It's yeah, it's, listen, like, so did you ever, like, had an opportunity to go and change something, like, as a single
um,
contributor? Like, I know you've been in leadership for many years now, but still,
when so w- I have nightmares from code rewriting from the time of tracks, and I treat rewrites as a form of art, because you first need to properly define the interfaces, and then you need to introduce proper tests for those interfaces, and only then gradually um, rewrite the code and make sure
Mhm.
that the interfaces are not broken. And it's a
Yeah,
form of art by itself. If you don't do it correctly, you only created, more technical debt and more problems. And I haven't seen someone who is proficient in that art, that would um, that would you know that will be a selling point to say, okay, these team is very good at this. let's give them this rewrite part, and let them do it from scratch, and it will be okay. I haven't experienced that. Like, again, for me, it's a form of art. You need to do it properly. Plus, whenever in all the places I've been in, it was always move fast and break things, and there was never an economic incentive like you said. It's a very good, you could sell that very well. But I was never there was always, oh, we already, the product already promised the client this and this and this. So there was never an economic incentive to prioritize and say, oh, it was always in the backlog. You can always see the rewrite in the backlog, but there was never anyone that would excuse that and say, okay, let's bring it forward, let's pay for this. Never. I never experienced that.
I think I think the way, and I'm again just kind of hindsight, just kind of learning from the past, and my I think we need to start changing terminology on this, right? It's
Which
kind of
means
which means like, oh, it's in the backlog, right? It's kind of like, how about we put it on the front? How it needs to, how about it needs to be there all the time, right? How about 50% is allocated to technical debt, and 50% is the other work is allocated to new things, right? It's like,
make sure that whatever
it's
you do is stable, and forward looking, being more stable, because
yeah,
if you keep building on that technical debt, it's going to crash and burn sometime during
which
the
makes
future.
sense. Like, it makes sense in every thing. Like, it's like, I build furniture, like, for fun, and maybe more than fun, just like it's it kind of keeps me sane. I guess that kind of creating it's something more tangible. I started that a few years ago, and right from the beginning, like, I could start seeing, funny enough, the connection between the two, right? I started doing that more when I became like, when I more started more like towards when I became more like hands off from coding, more in people leadership, and I felt like, something missing, right? It's kind of, and if I'm not gonna do stuff, I want to do something, like, I'm missing creating something,
Right.
and I didn't want to do in code for them, with them, right? I want to stay focused on people and strategy and all that, uh, and I started with the woodworking. I found a place here not so far away from me, and I very quickly I found that from very little pieces, the sushi bolt, hammer, whatever, it's a little box. First of all, you're gonna make mistakes. So fucking what?
Right.
Like, you made a
All the time.
mistake, 100%. If you're not gonna make mistakes, you're not gonna learn. Like,
Exactly.
it's kind of that's how do you learn math, right? You
Right.
make
Right.
mistakes, you improve, and like, we become better at something when we make mistakes, right? Because that's
Exactly.
kind of suddenly, like, your brain is, okay, you need to focus, right? When it's on automat, you just just do it.
Right.
So, but what's important is the impact of that mistake, right? So that's how much time you're gonna take to prepare, right? So if
Right.
I'm doing building legs for the table, right? And I'm making holes in those legs to connect between them. And if that hole I'm gonna make, if it's not in the right place, I need to make the whole leg from scratch. So the impact is, oh, I'm fucked for the next 2 days, because I need to go and do that leg, right? And if I don't have that specific timber, because I had only 4 pieces, right, for those
Right.
legs, and I
Right.
cut them beautifully from the same whatever, right? Do I need to go and make the whole legs again? from the beginning. So and then it's kind of, so if I'm releasing something to production, right, that I know the impact of that is going to be users cannot pay,
Right.
I'm going to spend time preparing, right? And as you should, right?
Right.
And it's, you kind of see like, wait a second, what's the difference, right? You're creating this impact. It's terminology is different, but the idea of, right, you creating something from nothing, right, and then you building pieces, then come together, you know, you glue
Art.
them. Yeah, you know, it's kind of, and 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 now, like, it's kind of, you know, I build those things and people look, oh, it's beautiful, it's perfect. I know it's not perfect. I know. I know
You see
behind,
each and every
you
twist and
know,
turn that
it's
you
gonna,
feel that
that
is,
wasn't
yeah,
the handle that was supposed to be
yeah, yeah.
there. You see this handle now because I fucking made a hole in the wrong place, so I have to create a new handle for this to cover that, right?
See that level of
It's,
perfection. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
but I know that doesn't mean that I didn't, you know, sold that piece. Does it mean I didn't, you know, I don't use that piece in my house? I use it. I know there's a hole behind the scenes, you know, covered.
Right.
My wife doesn't know, right?
Right.
It's kind of, nobody knows. It works.
Right.
The only way, you know, that hole will be visible if my wife will come and tell me, hey, Viko, I want to replace the handles, you know, those drawers. And then it's going to be, oh, fuck. You know, I need to tell her there's a hole there. So that's the only handle, you know. It's kind of, how many times we see that in software?
I
Right?
see.
It's kind of, oh, we want to replace this model with this model.
Yikes.
Not gonna take 5 minutes. Gonna, you
Let's
know, it's not that
let's have a
easy.
conversation.
Yeah, let's, you know, let's talk about trade-offs. What are trade-offs? It's just a model, just, you know, just a different library, just
Yeah.
replace that header. Yeah, you know, so remember when we spoke about that library that we asked you, want to replace this, and you said no? Yeah, you know, it's kind of, should have, you know, fixed the whole box or whatever. Should I fix the whole two drawers? Probably not. You know, it's kind of, we can probably continue to live with those handles forever. It's okay.
Right. Right. Right.
It's but I learned from that, right? That every time I do drawers and every time, you know, kind of, I'm gonna put different handles, you know, on those drawers. I'm gonna make sure that hole is in the middle, spot on, and I will double check 5 times.
Perfect that art.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of, it's, yeah, if it's on the back somewhere that nobody will see. Yeah, I don't know, like, it, I kind of felt like it's all connected when you're creating things. It's all trade-offs. It's okay to make mistakes, understand the impact, and you learn from mistakes. It's yeah.
Agree. I hope, you know, like I said, I really want to let the younger generation be, because they're having a hard time as it is. Their life is not as easy. Even though ours not we're not as easy, but they're having a hard time. So I'm trying, you know, I'm trying to let them have those mistakes, you know, learn from the
Yeah.
experience. Like you said, it's not not sure that this is the correct approach.
Well, again, if you're gonna, it might be, if you're gonna rewrite for them, they're not gonna learn that. They just know that you're there.
Definitely, definitely.
You know, you're always gonna
That's
save them.
right.
And it's, I think it's not even about them saving themselves. Like, it's kind of, there's a price to pay for mistakes. Right? When I say
Correct.
price to pay, like, it not necessarily means your job. Sometimes it is. There's a price to pay. In fact, there's accountability, right? So if you're taking that away from them, right?
Right.
Like, I'll just, it works, you know.
No, but what is the balance? Like, let's
Yeah.
say you send it for a fix.
Mhm.
They came back. You send it again. They came back. Like every time it comes back, you see
Improvement.
a small improvement, but this is the same merge request. You pushed it, they pushed it 5 times already,
Yeah.
and every time you come back with more comments,
Hmm.
when would be the time that you're going to say, you know what, they worked so hard on it, and I already, asked them 5 times to fix it, and
Yeah.
every time they come back with more errors, just let them push it, and
Actually, and again, that I'm saying that today. I will look at this how many times they fixed it. To me, that number that you said, oh, they already fixed it 5 times. If 5 times they're fixing it and it's not what I expect, I would jump on a call and try to explain, try to make sure they understand what I want.
Mhm.
Because it's frustrating, right? To kind of,
Right.
it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. What guys want from me, like I'm gonna try this. They kind of already have gambling. I'll try this. Let's see if it's gonna work. Right? I'm gonna try this,
Right.
and then you're gonna do it again and again. So I think
Jump on a call and explain yourself.
explain yourself, like it's kind of it's if you wanna write it for them, make sure they're in the room. If
Right.
anything, right? Just kind of do it with them, like, hey, you see, it's kind of, and then you can also see from the reaction,
Fully agree.
what they're missing. You know how people, okay, that's what you want. Yeah, that's like when magic happens. Yeah.
Viko, I think I learned a lot today. Definitely things I'm gonna take away.
Yeah. I'm just enjoying
Definitely
the
things.
chat.
Definitely things I'm gonna take away, because yeah, these are questions that I asked a couple of times. I think this today was the by far the best answer. Um,
Cheers,
yeah,
mate. Yeah, I learned from our chat too. You ask good questions. Uh,
cool.
yeah. Well, I think we can. It's 12 p.m. on Wednesday, January
8 p.m.
1st.
on mine,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna take the kids to the beach. I think a bit later. I'm just gonna go and prepare for that. Um,
and
I
then we
think it
meet
was
on
great,
next
mate.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Gonna have another chat soon. Cheers, mate. See you.
Cheers. Bye bye.